Now, would it be redundant of me to ask if you know about the hit dating sim Outlast? I mean, look at these two guys right here. They seem hung as fuck. Yes, I'm joking. As usual. Outlast is definitely, without a doubt, one of the crown jewels when it comes to modern survival horrors. Taking a damn creepy, yet relatable location, disturbing enemies, hide-and-seek gameplay that focused more on avoiding the threats rather than trying to take them head-on, yet it does still retain a few elements from classic survival horror games like trying to find health pickups, as well as batteries for the only source of light that you'll have for most of the game, your camcorder. And in doing that, you have probably one of the most visually distinct games in the survival horror genre. And that is the fact that you will, for a large portion of the game, be viewing the world through the camera's night vision mode. And this makes things even more scary when you just walk up to an inmate and see the cold white of their eyes being illuminated by the filter. It's almost like a deer in the headlights, except the deer is that thing from The Ritual. Is that a P? And the game also had a plot. Outlast 2 came out, made the graphics prettier, and made you walk on a pit full of dead babies. Yeah, this game is fucked up. Yes, I haven't finished this one. I was more scared of the fucking birds than anything else. Avians are terrifying! Now, whilst I wasn't exactly the most horrified when I was playing these two games, at least not by the enemies, piss off, you polter! I genuinely enjoyed the worlds, the gameplay, as well as the whole overall premise of just being this one person against an entire horde of enemies you have no way of defending yourself against. It's one of the franchises that I consider actually do horror right. Making yourself defenseless against the enemies you'll be encountering is a good way to build tension and make each encounter feel like a do-or-die situation. But still, Outlast pretty much paved the way for modern horror titles to come after. I didn't say all of them were good. Hell, even Resident Evil, you know, the whole reason survival horror is a mainstream genre in the first place, even took some inspiration from Outlast when they switched to 7. That's just how big of an impact this game left on the horror world. And so in 2022, where we've had a 5-year gap between games, we now have the latest game in the Outlast series, and that is the Outlast Trials. And it's not actually a continuation from the Outlast series after 2. No, the Outlast Trials is actually a prequel to the events of the original game, and it follows you as one of many test subjects being subjected to various experiments during the Cold War. And let me tell you, if they don't start asking you about what the numbers mean, then I'm gonna be very disappointed. And now, aside from actually going through a rather linear plot with the typical twists and turns you've come to expect from these games, now you go through a series of missions, all with different objectives in order to complete them. And what is probably the biggest addition to this game is the fact that you and 3 of your friends can actually team up and evacuate your bowels together. But I'm gonna be real honest with you here for a second. Your hair looks nice. The whole idea for me of a game series that was acclaimed for having a strong single-player experience, now moving over to the whole multiplayer focus, is really what gets me, rubs me the wrong way. I look towards games like Elder Scrolls Online and Fallout 76 as my major examples for this. And if we need to hit a little bit more close to home for the horror genre, then we need not look further than the good old Motel of Naughty series. For games that prided themselves on trying to make you feel alone in these large claustrophobic environments, and had that good mix of resource management, excellent puzzles, and very risky combat. And then they decided to say the hell with that and become Left 4 Dead and Counter-Strike. Did you guys pull a wisdom tooth? Because none of those decisions were wise! Oogway must be fuming. When you try to change the style of the game, makes me want to cause you a significant amount of pain. Now, the only reasons I can think that this can be a little bit cool for me is because I've always wanted a strong horror experience where you and a bunch of friends get terrified together. Dead by Daylight being probably the only game that ever came close to something like that. But with all that being said, let's have a look and see what Red Barrel Games have hidden inside that red barrel. Maybe it's an oil leak. Now, before I get into the nitty-gritties of the whole game, I will say that this is a closed beta version of the game, so once again, this will not be a review. So obviously, I'm not gonna be too harsh on the whole fact that if some things in the game might seem off or glitchy, but I will mention them regardless, as it will hopefully lead into the project getting more refined and improved down the line. So Red Barrel, please know that if I rip your beta to shit and make fun of everything, know that I do it with love. So immediately with treated to this very odd title screen. All these random images flash by with the logo all distorted. It's not creepy, but it's rather stylish, and I kinda like that. It is 100% a step up from the original games because those mainly just had still images. Too bad my internet is shit, so the connecting bar over here kinda ruins it. Oh, and did you know the game's in development and content will be subject to change? What content? You mean the willies? Alright, so we get our obvious EULA shit that we clearly read through, and... What is this cursor? Why is it just a floating hand? This looks like something you'd see in an old point-and-click adventure game from the late 90s and early 2000s. Not a modern survival horror where this sack of spam ham chases you down while calling you a little pig. There's even blood at the end of it to let you know it's severed. Is that what they do to severed limbs in this game? Use them as menu cursors? I can't wait for that to happen with my hand so I can be a downloadable cursor for Peppa Pig. Okay, so after that, we head into the loading screen, and I don't know what a coup hint is, but I'm sure that dying in a trial and spectating a living teammate is a little creepy. And I'm just gonna mention it here, the loading kinda sucks. It took around 2 minutes for the game to actually load into the cutscene. I will say, however, though, that this could be a result of me using my 4TB external to play the game, as I'm pretty sure the devs wanted you to play this game on an SSD, but do you really think I'm gonna go out of my way to waste the very limited space I have on mine, or buy a new one altogether just to play this game? Another game I'm gonna be talking about is Scorn, and it too suffers from this, but unlike Scorn, I never fell through an unloaded map, so I'll give red barrel points for this. Okay, finally we loaded in, and we see this flyer for a company known as the Markov Corporation fly off and land near a homeless person. The flyer's ads promising that the world owes them everything, and so probably desperate to see what goes on in the company and how it can help them out, they go and... Oh. I didn't know a burlap sack was included. I'm starting to think we got ripped off. So you get kidnapped and placed in this facility where you just see people getting butchered left and right. Then this nurse shows us a man that clearly doesn't know that a ring light should be placed in front of you. He's probably camera shy. We've all been there before, buddy. Then he says English, we get drugged with piss, and then we get these night vision goggles fused onto our skull. Were straps not invented in the Cold War? This seems kind of excessive. And after all that, we get loaded into a character creator. Yes, seeing as we're no longer playing as a solo and fixed player, we actually now get to make our own subject that is gonna get subjected to endless amounts of torture in order to survive each trial. So I make the character look exactly like me, put on this funny hat, and then we get loaded in. The game prompting us to wake up. Well, I am awake. How do you think I'm playing the game? I go to graphics, set everything to low because I choose graphics over frame rate, and off we go. So off the bat, despite me setting the game to low, the game's presentation does the job, and it does it well. The environments strike this perfect balance of being dank, grotesque, but relatable at the same time. That'll end up toying with your expectations on where you think you might be safe or not. I mean, given the nature of these games, we're probably fucked regardless of the decor, but the graphics and the atmosphere are just as dreadful and disturbing as it usually is for the series. And the fact that we're actually inside a facility that conducts these trials on these poor souls, you'll even walk around and you'll be able to see the staff and security watching your every move. So overall, we do have pretty much the same gameplay as the previous games. And with these controls, we get the obvious. We can walk. These controls are so good. We can sprint, which takes up stamina, we can vault over obstacles, peek around corners and climb up to higher areas, and as we sprint, using the peek buttons allows us to look behind us so we can gauge how far our pursuer is. Depending on whether or not you sprint or walk up to doors, you can either open them normally, hold down the button to peek around the door to make sure that it's safe to begin with, and finally bash through them. You can slide like a gamer, and you're still able to hide, whether that be inside a closet, underneath a bed, or even in the trash.
I like it in here.
And you can peek out of them so that you're able to see whether or not the enemy is still in the room or left it. Another huge thing in this game that I noticed is that you now have an inventory where you can pick stuff up like these bricks and bottles to cause either a distraction or outright slow down enemies when you hit them, to health items like these bottles, these adrenaline syringes that refill your stamina, and then there's other items like this battery here that can recharge your night vision, to lockpicks that allow you to unlock certain cabinets and chests by completing this timing minigame, and if you play multiplayer then you're able to find these syringes for if one of you dies, you're able to revive the other players on the team if you have enough of them, and you're also able able to find these fallout jet pipes, but I'll get to what those do in a little bit. I do suppose it's actually time to talk about the actual stage. Well, in the first stage, you're exploring this mansion, and the end goal is to destroy your public records and your private life. Maybe this guy was doxxed and this is just damage control. We start on the outskirts of the mansion, then we make our way inside. We then get to explore these rooms filled to the brim with blood splattered everywhere and these mannequins. And while not really disturbing for me personally, I can see a good few people getting creeped out by this place. Not because of the shit that's going on inside though. Imagine the rent. We pull a few levers, each doing something. I don't know, it turns the lights off while this guy over here speaks in English. We then get to see a person who was not so lucky steal his shit, and then we enter a dining hall where the kids are busy learning excellent table manners. We go into the kitchen and oh no, a spooky! We get our shit kicked in and then he just leaves. Well, okay, I wasn't planning on stealing your cookies, buddy. I just want to try and find my tax evasion document. And after that, we head inside this room where there's a very cute puppet show being held for the kids that can contort their necks a full 180 degrees. They're very talented. We then get offered this lovely apple for our troubles, but then, oh no, a llama that can talk and has a drill in his yapper. And on top of that, he caused us an owie. Probably because we didn't say thank you for the apple. Maybe we deserve this. We sneak around for a little bit till we reach this room and oh, I guess that button's off limits. It's here where we then discover that the puppet was being controlled by this woman here, and for some reason she just chucks this poor guy in this conveniently placed wood chipper in the middle of the room. And I know what you're thinking, we can't jump in to save him. Sorry Billy, you're fucked. Okay. It's here where the objectives of destroying the records are nicely highlighted for us, both on the top left as well as having these large markers displaying the location. So we pick up my stash of magazines which caused my wife to kick me out, we carry it slowly to the grinder and say goodbye to an unhealthy addiction. Then we got another one to do. Alright, not too bad. We get chased around on our way to our second destination, but I played Metal Gear, so I know exactly what I'm doing. We go inside this room and oh no, a spooky! He sprays us with this cloud and that causes us to get psychosis. While in this state, our vision gets all fucked up, and then this dude here called the Skinner Man will try to catch us and he'll try to kill us. Pretty simple, right? We'll get back to the psychosis mechanic a little bit later. We grab our private life, head back to the shredder, toss it into the shredder, and all is right with the world. And oh, hello there. Run for your life! We get placed into what this game calls shuttles, then we get a debriefing by the same influencer who we saw earlier, and then the level properly ends. We are now in what the game calls the sleeping room, and this is essentially our hub area, where we get to see other players, select the next trial, and go to our quarters and re-customize our characters if we so please, now with a lot more cosmetics that we can buy. To select the next trial, we head over to this terminal here, and from here we can find the dossier menu. Here we can select the next trial along with the difficulty. We can choose to go at it either alone or find other players to play with, and on the next menu we can select our loadouts, many of which are unavailable at the moment, but here we can select something the game calls rigs, which are permanently equipped items that has a recharge that gives you special abilities, like in my case, being able to see enemies through walls and heal yourself along with your teammates. You can also get 2 additional ones where you get to stun and blind enemies, but I really didn't bother. Knowing where enemies are and refilling my health is always way more important to me. There's also an evidence tab, and then there's the stats. I don't care about the stats. So the only trial that was available was the Snitches Get Stitches mission, where the main objective is to kill a snitch via electrocution. So I selected the mission, opting to go at it alone, then well, you look good. Then once I load in, I get my briefing, I trip balls, and then I lost connection to the server, and that actually ended up crashing the game. I would make a foreshadowing joke at this point, but I don't feel like it's the right time yet. We load back in, get the briefing, start the trip ball, and finally we're in. We start outside this little city street and we need to infiltrate the police station. So first, we blatantly walk barefoot on glass with no repercussions, then we make our way to what the fuck? Did you guys see that? And look, he's got a pee! I offered him a drink, crawled under this gap, and let's go. I managed to escape a nudist, and the objective was complete. Awesome. Now we need to start looking for the snitch. Okay, we're inside a control room now. Let's push this button. Oh. Well, we're getting to see police brutality at its finest. True. I didn't know that blue yetis existed in the 60s. Hey, you must be the guy we're looking for. He seems very dangerous. It's okay, buddy. I'm just gonna wheel you away from here. Damn it. Must be load shedding. Okay, so now apparently we're playing Dead by Daylight, because now we gotta fix the generators. I didn't think that this task was gonna be easy, but whatever, let's just go forward. So the whole goal with these generators is first, we need to find these gas cans in order to fill them up, then flip the switches so that all of them turn green, then we need to time our... Wait, what the hell? I'm cranking the what is this? I'm pressing the crank button, but nothing's happening. Alright, let me just let go and okay, now it works, but what am I supposed to do? It's not working. I get it right here and there a few times, but what exactly am I supposed to actually do? Am I supposed to hit it in the green? Am I supposed to hit it in the yellow? Now there's no yellow or green. Is the game bugged or something? Oh great, now we need to deal with that damn cop. But why are you hitting the dog mannequin? Okay, bye. What exactly am I doing wrong with these generators? Oh great, now you grew some brain cells, and just my luck, now I'm dead. So what the hell am I doing wrong here? I respawn? Oh wait, let me get to that. When you die when playing alone, you'll probably notice that you have a total of 3 lives. This is done, of course, because in multiplayer, when you get knocked down, you can either be picked up, and on top of that, you can revive the other players who died. Now, you'll notice here it says, I have 1 in 3 chances remaining. So I died before, right? Well, you'd be correct. Now, how did that happen? Well, I am so glad you asked. What? You didn't? Well, too bad. I'm bitter and I need to vent. As I have mentioned before, you can get stuck with psychosis in the game, and you have a dedicated bar that shows you your level of sanity you still have left. Then in order to get rid of it, you need to find these inhalers, and usually just finding one is enough to get your sanity back to normal. But when you get hit, you're pursued by this jackass that looks like if a Ganado tried to dress up fancy, and this twat can still kill you in this state. He doesn't do too much damage to you, but when he gets you, you'll see your health bar die faster than MySpace. But that's not the problem. The problem is when you get stuck with psychosis, you have the most ugly and disorienting filter plastered onto your screen, and it can make it a nightmare to see where you're going sometimes. And I genuinely at one point started getting nauseous from constantly seeing it. And this can make traversing the already claustrophobic environments a fucking disaster, especially when you're being chased by someone. Having this stupid psychedelic filter caked onto your screen really doesn't help the situation all that much. Now, this wouldn't be too much of a problem if you didn't get fucking psychosis more often than I'm able to find a scent on the sidewalk. Yeah! And that's because you have a few methods of getting psychosis. The first one is this jackass that gave it to us originally at the beginning of the game, and yes, he does come back in this mission. Secondly, whenever you mess up the lockpicking minigame. And the last one I can recall were these mines plastered throughout the map, that when you walk over them, you guessed it, you get sprayed. I might as well go bare-ass naked through a car wash, that's how much I seem to love getting sprayed. And yes, I understand, this is a punishment for failing to pay attention during the minigames and not playing the game stealthily. But do you really want to know why this all actually started to piss me off? And let's get back to the generators. You may have noticed in some parts during the footage the game may seem a little bit glitchy, and that's what I thought was wrong too. You know, it being a closed beta and all that. But another assumption that I had, and it turned out to be the actual reason, was this was because of a result of the game being online. And lo and behold, guess who played this game while the internet was easily at its most shit? Hence, why the game crashed on me earlier. It was so bad that I struggled to write my script on docs.
This is absolutely fucking ridiculous.
So the actual reason why I wasn't able to complete the lockpicking puzzles and wasn't able to do shit at the fucking generators was all due to my shitty internet. And do you want to know how I immediately confirmed that? I rage quitted so much it was starting to piss me off, loaded some mobile data onto my cell phone just to see whether or not I was right. And guess what? I was. The minute I loaded that other data that was a lot more stable than my useless as fuck current ISP's internet, I loaded back in the game, and from there on out, I didn't have any more problems. Everything worked. I was able to do the lockpicking minigame, no problem. And guess what? I was able to do the generators almost flawlessly. Do you know how much this pissed me off upon me learning this? It's another reason why the fucking bullshit of the psychosis got to me so badly, because I was getting absolutely annihilated by this shit because of my internet not loading the shit that I needed to see in order to finish them. Now, do you understand why this is annoying? The first 2 Outlast games were perfect entries into the survival horror genre, and they achieved this acclaimed status by being amazing single-player games. But why I'm annoyed in this case is, yes, I understand the game is more multiplayer focused, but why the hell would you give me the option to play this game in single player and not have the fucking game load an offline version of each map and the sleep room? And I decided to test this out. There isn't. I disconnected connected my internet entirely to see whether or not the game had an offline mode, and there just wasn't one. The game didn't even start up. Yeah, the demos for Resident Evil 8 needed to have a connection first, but those were still single-player games that didn't have any stupid multiplayer components tacked onto it, so if the demo was just able to recognize that there was a connection, you could still play it no problem. But here's the actual reason why I fucking hate this. I totally understand that if you were in an actual game with other players, because, you know, that means you're playing online with other people, but if you just wanted to go at it alone, which the game does allow you to do, you're trying to tell me that if your internet isn't the greatest, the game is gonna be virtually unplayable? What kind of stupid shit is that? You do realize that there are still a lot of places on this planet where people have even worse, if not have no internet at all. Now, I don't know whether or not there'll be two separate startups when the official game releases, where you can toggle between online and off, but I sure as hell hope there is. But whatever, rant over. After switching to the more stable internet, the game became genuinely a lot better from here. I was able to do everything I needed to do with it, no problem. There were still some laggy shit that happened here and there, but overall the game was fine after that. So after fixing both generators, we head to our burlap-sacked friend in the stroller, we push him to the end of the door where we... oh, for fuck's sakes. This is actually a really interesting part of the game for me. You actually need to find these keys scattered throughout the area, but you need to observe stuff in the environment to find clues as to how to obtain them. In this case, we look at the screen, it gives us a symbol of a heart, then as we look around further, we can see a corpse with a heart painted on his chest. You reach in and grab the key, and congrats, you did a smart. After unlocking the door, we need to locate 3 more in the exact same way that we needed to find the first one, only now there are more corpses around the area that have the wrong symbol painted on them. So if you reach into them, you get a zap or a seizure. I really don't know what the hell's going on here. But another thing that I will give the game credit for is that it will give you hints as to where you need to go whilst you're on the lookout for these little trinkets, so that really helps a lot when you get lost. So after playing around with a glitched out Professor Peony by staring straight at his bare ass and nuts, yes, very nice detail. I know you guys are not allowed to see it yet, just take my word for it, genitals must be a massive priority for Red Barrel. We get all the keys, open all the gates, and then lo and behold, we get to push him inside this cage, then we just pull the lever, wait for a few seconds like we're waiting for a bus at a bus stop, and then we kill the poor bastard. We then run back to the beginning of the stage, exit the mission, and then it is complete. Completed in 47 minutes and 5 seconds. If only they knew. That was an absolute nightmare, but after fixing the whole internet thing, the game got a lot more bearable, so that made it a lot better. Guess the last thing we need to do now is just try out a multiplayer match, and it's pretty much the same thing. The only few differences I managed to see here is now there are actual co-op events where you can do something like lift a team member over this wall here, but no one wanted to do that with me. Help up teammates or revive them if they die. Sadly, I wasn't able to show me reviving a teammate. You'll figure out why soon. And at the same time, things got changed a little bit. Like the symbols for the doors we needed to unlock at the end of the stage to push the guy into the execution chamber, and the amount of generators were doubled in order to compensate for the larger team size. This was fun enough, but as much as I had fun playing with these guys, there was no communication, no one had mics on, and I couldn't find a chat to talk to them. All I could do was ping shit and say hello and thank you, so maybe playing this with a bunch of friends will be the most preferred way. Oh, and we died at the end, and we failed the mission, so this is the best way to end this video. Well, that wasn't exactly the experience that I was expecting from this game, but overall, what can I say about the Outlast Trials? Aside from the whole internet thing and, you know, the fucking psychosis mechanic, I still thought that the game was actually still really fun. There's a few things I didn't even really go through, talking about like how the fucked up, wacky, over-the-top violence that Outlast is well known for is still preserved in this game. So if you guys were a huge fan of that, then, you know, you've only got a lot to look forward to in this. They still managed to keep that the same. The only major complaint that I have is the whole internet thing. As you see, if it wasn't for me eventually switching to my new internet that was a lot more stable and a lot more consistent, then I probably would never have even been able to finish the police station mission, like, whatsoever. I mean, like, if you don't have a proper internet connection, you're pretty much fucked out of playing the game. And so that's probably, like, the biggest thing that I really can say needs improvements. For an open beta, you wouldn't really get the idea that that is the case with this game. Maybe aside from a few bugs here and there, but I can still see that being easily ironed out for the eventual release of the full version. But yeah, no, other than that, I genuinely still had a lot of fun. While I have not actually tried out the multiplayer yet with a bunch of my friends, I will say that to me, the entire game was still a good time, whether or not you would want to play it in single player or if you want to play it in multiplayer. I think that for a deviation, the core gameplay and the core mechanics are still as solid as they ever were. I'm just saying that if you're a solo player, maybe consider just rather buying the entire Outlast Trinity collection. It's a lot cheaper, they're a lot better, and it's more value for your solo time. But still, this isn't something I would consider sleeping on, you know? Like, I already think that the entire mission-based structure, while I don't prefer it personally, can bring a lot more variety in both the objectives and the environments that you explore. It's like, there is a lot of potential still hidden in here, and I think that if they just iron out a few of these kinks and just address the issues that I brought up, I think that this game can still be just as good, if not better, than the older Outlast games. But yeah, that's all I really need to say. Red Barrel, if you're watching this, please give us an offline mode. So, thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you guys enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing. If you disliked the video, well then, I guess I'm gonna have to send Professor Peony over to your residence to come and say hello. I also need to give a huge apology for like having this video be so late, because I wanted to try and get it out before, I wanted to try and get it out on Halloween, but sadly, like, a lot of personal issues came up and a lot of like work-related stress and other stuff that I needed to get sorted out came up, so I'm really sorry for that, but the video's here and I really hope you guys enjoy it. And yeah, no, that's about it. My name is John from the channel with the freakishly long name. Thank you guys so much again for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.